IVM.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories, India's very own travel podcast, where each week we share the journey of travelers in their own words and relive their experiences with you, our listeners. Hey guys, welcome to an all new episode of the Musafir Stories. We are really excited to be talking to a journalist for the first time on our podcast today. Rajat Ubhaykar is a business journalist who has covered the length and breadth of India on trucks and highways. Let's find out more from Rajat.
So with that introduction, I'd like to welcome Rajat Ubhaykar from Mumbai. Rajat, we're so glad to have you, and we usually talk to a lot of travel bloggers, so it's one of a kind for us. Now, talking to a journalist, we feel a little more mature in one way now, but really happy to have you on board, and thanks so much for being a part of the Musafir Stories.
Thank you so much, Seth, for having me over. It's a pleasure to share my experiences of the road on this podcast.
Thank you so much, Rajat. We also look forward to a wonderful conversation. But before that, I'd like to request you to tell us a little bit more about yourself and your tryst with travel and journalism. They kind of, I think, interleaved in some way for you, right? So tell us a little bit more about that, because the intro I gave was quite concise.
Yeah. So basically, I trained as an engineer at IIT Kanpur.
Okay.
Then, of course, I did a job at a consultancy, as is the standard thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then at some point, I pivoted to journalism because of a desire to travel, actually, in a way, like to get to see the world as much as possible outside of a desk job.
Sure.
So that was the motivation behind becoming a journalist, to meet more people, get new perspectives. And travel sort of was perfect for that particular objective.
Yeah, I think, for those of you wondering and a little, I think, stunned as to why we're not discussing a destination and why this is completely different, this is because I recently came across one of Rajat's pieces about the life of truckers, right, or lorries also, as we refer to them as in India, their lives, and kind of documenting them, and by going on a journey across pretty much the entire length and breadth of India. So it seemed very intriguing and very interesting as well, because this is usually people who have been, I think, dramatically stereotyped and stigmatized by society, right? People just don't even look at them as people. They just consider them as a part of that truck, right? So we don't really delve into that, and it was really heart-wrenching, some of the stories that Rajat has covered, and that's why we wanted to bring that side of life as well to you by sharing those wonderful stories with Rajat, and hence this episode, and we only have Rajat to thank for. So Rajat will take us on this journey along with him across the length and breadth of India, where he went along with a friend on most occasions. So Rajat, just to give some orientation, like why don't you draw out your route for us and tell us the stretches that you did on trucks during this journey?
Yeah. So I started out from Mumbai, which is my hometown. And from there, I got onto a truck for Delhi. Like I've arranged somehow, because it is ridiculously difficult to find a truck in large cities, because it's like so crowded and impersonal. No one cares and no one stops. So my aim was to go to Delhi, but I stopped in Udaipur for various reasons. From Udaipur, I hitched on another truck, went to Jaipur, which is around 400 kilometers from Udaipur to Jaipur. And the thing was, I did not know what my next destination is going to be. Okay. It was not a planned trip. So the destination was decided based on what the trucker whom I managed to hitch with, his destination was. So it was unpredictable at every point. So from Jaipur, I found a truck to Chandigarh. So I thought, okay, let's go to Chandigarh. My aim was to just head north and finally touch Srinagar using whatever route. Like I was not particular about that.
Right.
So from Chandigarh, I then went to Sirhind, which is a town in Punjab. And from there, via Pathankot, Jammu, I reached Srinagar with a brief detour to McLeodganj.
Okay.
So that was the leg, the North Indian leg of the journey.
Okay.
And then in the Northeast, I started out from Dimapur.
Uh-huh.
And Dimapur is the commercial sort of capital of Nagaland.
Sure.
And it is the gateway into the Naga and Manipur hills.
Yep.
So from Dimapur, I went on a truck to Kohima, and which is like the capital of Nagaland.
Yep.
From Kohima and another truck to Imphal.
Okay.
So this was the Northeast leg. It's only like 300 or 400 kilometers, but because of the roads and stuff, it seems like an eternity.
Sure.
It doesn't.
Yeah, Northeast roads are mostly infamous, right, for how well maintained they are.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty bad. But the worst is Kashmir.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Because when I went, just 9 months before that, there were the floods. So the roads were all washed out. And it was very bad.
Okay.
And then coming to South India, like this, I went sometime later. South India, I started out from Mumbai, went to Hyderabad.
Okay.
From Hyderabad, I went to Vijayawada. From Vijayawada to Rajamundry, like basically the Andhra coast.
Right.
Vijayawada to Rajamundry to Visakhapatnam. Then I came back along the Andhra coast again and passed like Kakinada, Nellore, all these coastal towns.
Sure.
Like very small town. There is nothing distinctive about them. There are some small things, but they are not famous towns. From Nellore, then I went along to Rayalaseema, which is like a sub-region of Andhra.
Yep.
So from there, I went to Chittur. From Chittur, I went to Palamner. Palamner to Bangalore. From Bangalore, then I decided to go south towards Tamil Nadu. So from Bangalore, I went to Salem. Salem to Madurai. And from Madurai, eventually I touched Kanyakumari.
Okay.
From Kanyakumari, then I went along the Kerala coast, which is like a huge coast, like 600 kilometers, it just doesn't end. So I did the entire Kerala coast, then along Karnataka, and finally Goa, and then back to Mumbai.
Wonderful. And any rough idea as to how many kilometers you covered as a part of this entire journey on trucks?
Yeah, it's around 15,000 kilometers. I calculated, and it is not all of it was on truck because sometimes it's just impossible to find a truck.
Yeah.
Like for one example that I remember is like it was Pongal, in Tamil Nadu, and I was in Namakkal, and I was like struggling to find like someone will stop, but but there's nobody, not a soul moving. And one guy finally agreed to take us in because he thought like we were some Tamil people who wanted to go home for Pongal. And because the buses are also not working, so he took us in. But then after that, we couldn't get any truck. So there were a few occasions when it was via bus or whatever desperate means of conveyance we could find.
Yes, we get the sentiment, but I think it's incredible that you've managed to pretty much circle the whole of India on these trucks, and it's very different from usually what people do, right? But you've actually roughed it out, going around India to get a feel of the life of these truckers, right? The kind of lives they lead. So I think that's really incredible, and kudos to you for having done that. And just before we jump into like some of the experiences you had, I also like to touch upon the industry in itself, right? The trucking industry in general. If anyone is wondering why there are so many truckers around plying, it's because most of the transportation of goods and material domestically, I think over 60%, I guess, right, Rajat, is managed by these trucks, and that's why you find them. I mean, as a biker or as a car driver, you probably find them as nuisances, but they're pretty much the lifeline of all of the transportation that is done within the country. And just as a matter of fact, like you also mentioned that in one of your pieces, that most truck drivers, they spend about 8 months in a year, right, on the road in their trucks. So it's a grueling job, and I'm sure the challenges that come with it, even those are not helping in any way. I think on that note, we can get on to a little bit of a journey, because I saw that you had a number of very interesting experiences as you traversed through India. I wanted to start off by touching upon. We'll take up your the northern leg of your journey first, and see if there are some interesting tidbits that you found during that leg, and what are the kind of experiences you went through, Rajat?
Yeah. So the first truck that I was in, the driver was called Sham, and he's like the most dignified man I've ever seen. Like as a truck driver, he's like a teetotaler. He was the antithesis of every truck driver usually you can imagine, and that was a wonderful journey. And he had like the best music taste. He played amazing songs throughout. Like he kept us entertained right from the oldies to Punjabi ghazals, all kinds of stuff.
Nice.
So that like was pretty sweet and enjoyable. Then from Udaipur to Jaipur, this is when I hitched with this party of Gujjars.
Okay.
They were the totally polar opposite. Like they were actually the stereotyped truck drivers in a way. Their characteristics were such. Firstly, they were extremely interested in sex. That was what they were obsessed with in a way.
Okay.
So the first question when I climbed into the vehicle, the first question he asked me was, do you have some porn? Can you show me something? And I said, okay, sorry, but no, I don't carry porn around. Then he said, okay, he points to my smartphone and says, okay, you surely must be able to play some on that. Come on. So then they told me all about how the business of sex happens on the highways. It's a pretty shady business, as you can imagine.
Right.
This belt between Udaipur and Jaipur is especially notorious for highway prostitution. Many of these prostitutes come from nomadic communities who have been basically left behind by modernity. Like their old lifestyles have been rendered irrelevant in a way. So some of them have taken to prostitution, where the men in the family then give out the women. Like it's like the kind of a family occupation. So that was the kind of milieu this was in. So that journey was very informative in a way. At the same time, it was shocking, but a lot of fun. Like I had some drinks with them, and yeah, they were a lot of fun.
Right.
I mean, not while driving. Of course, like usul is okay in the night when you're done driving, have a few pegs, and then when you wake up, you start driving. You don't drive because they care for their lives as much as their life at risk actually.
Sure.
So yeah, from Jaipur, then I headed to Chandigarh. And I hitched with these Punjabi drivers.
Okay. Reminiscence of Gadar, is it?
Oh, actually, they were not. They were Sikh, but they were not the
not
turban
Sardarjis.
Sikhs.
Okay, yeah,
Not
the turban Sikhs.
one.
Sure.
Yeah, they are like the Khals, Amritdhari Sikhs and the Sahajdhari Sikhs.
Okay.
So yeah, they were turbanless Sikhs. And then, these guys were also unique totally, because I learned from them about the whole substance abuse of opium. That is one of the biggest problems, not in all of India, in some parts such as Rajasthan and Punjab.
Sure.
These are the two main areas where many of the drivers are totally hooked to opium. And opium is not like, it will kill you. Like the withdrawal symptoms are so cruel, you cannot even bear them. So it is like a very serious addiction.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Punjab, right, not just the truck drivers for that matter, is faced with this problem, right?
Yeah, Punjab in general has a lot of issues. Like other trucks are also there, like Chitta.
Yeah.
Chitta is like the worst thing over there. And what they have is bhukki. Okay, they call it bhukki.
Okay.
This is basically poppy husk, like the dried seed or dried pod of the poppy plant. This is basically organic origin. There is nothing synthetic about it, unlike Chitta, which is like highly synthetic and dangerous. So the most interesting part is like this drug is legal in Rajasthan, or at least was legal. When I went, it was legal. So opium is like a part of the socio-cultural fabric of that region. So when a guest will come in your home, you have to offer him a glass of water with some opium dissolved in it. That is like a welcome drink. So it is ingrained to that level in the culture itself. And in the earlier times, the use of this was also restrained, like dictated by, say, traditional wisdom. Like you have to have it in moderation for good health. But now it is being abused like totally. So the guy I traveled with, Jorawar, he used to buy it directly from the government licensed shops. And it was relatively cheap, like not very expensive, but highly addictive. But thing is, it is legal in Rajasthan. If you like transport it to Punjab, it becomes illegal. So whenever he traveled, he was always careful to take the rural roads and not the the one which passes through the border checkpoint.
Right.
So he was a master at all the rural roads of Haryana.
Mm-hmm.
He knew all the ins and outs, and his owner also knew about his addiction. But he said okay, and he allowed him to go only along the Rajasthan Punjab route.
Okay.
Because so that is how he could procure it more frequently.
Right.
But in return, this guy used to transport overloaded marble and Kota stone, all these things
Mm-hmm.
back, because he knew all the rural roads. He knew how to evade the tax officials.
Mm.
So this was like a quid pro quo between them. Like, you have as much opium as you want on this route, but you just transport my mal safely. So that is how their whole dynamic was. So these guys were wonderful. I became like very good friends with them because I was there with them for one day and one night, and then they later invited me to Sirhind, which is where they lived.
Okay.
So from Chandigarh, I went to Sirhind. There, I visited their house also.
Mm-hmm.
We became like pretty good friends and we related to each other in some weird way. Like, I cannot even explain, but we became good friends.
Okay.
So yeah, from Sirhind, then Sirhind was the place which is one of the biggest centers of truck bodybuilding.
Right.
So the truck, when it comes out of the factory, is only the chassis. In the trade parlance, it's called chassis.
Sure.
It is like just the engine with none of the cabin, nothing is there.
Yep.
Then after that, these truck bodybuilders,
Mm-hmm.
they construct it throughout. So I witnessed that whole process. It was very interesting. And also the truck art. Truck art was also one of the major reasons why I wanted to go on this trip. It has fascinated me always. Where do these conventions come from? They are so faithfully followed everywhere.
And very quirky also, right? I mean, very intriguing and very quirky at times. And I'm also very interested in seeing those things that are little sayings or little poems and stuff like that are written the backside of the truck, right? Even those are very interesting.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, they make the owner of the truck known to the outsider. Who is he? What is his personal motto? That is the intention behind painting all this. Some of them are cliched, but many of them are very original.
Yeah, the cliched ones like Buri Nazar Wale, Tera Muh Kala.
Yeah. Then
right?
there will be Road King. Road King is the most common, because everyone thinks they are the Road King because they are the biggest beast of the road. So we are the kings of the road.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah. So that process I witnessed in Sirhind. That was very interesting how they make the entire truck. It's a very elaborate process and a skilled one. It requires a lot of skill to build that. I mean, not many people know that these things exist also, these workshops where they make trucks. And many people probably think it comes out like that or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
why don't you paint a rough picture of us for us of the cabin also, because I think it's a very interesting place to be in, right? As you said, it is like a second home for them. They spend so much time there, and I'm sure some of their personality also reflects in the cabin too, right?
Yeah, I mean, cabins some of them are extremely plush as hell, especially the Kashmiri drivers. They will have, they are the most indulgent as far as truck cabins are concerned, because if a Punjabi spends 1 lakh rupees, the Kashmiri will spend 2 lakh on his cabin only. So he will have an LCD system, he will have a nice fan, he will have velvet sofa cushion, and they will have radium tape across the cabin so that the cabin glows in the night. They have all kinds of hidden compartments to hide contraband. They have
I mean, it's like interior designing their house, right? For them, I guess that's how they take it up. Yeah,
it's like your home, or the owner of the workshop, he said it's like choosing a wife, or it's like making your own wife. that is how important it is.
Yeah, it's true.
So in cabins you will have so the Kashmiri drivers, so they don't have any depiction of the living creatures on their album, because of the tenet of Islam, which says that you cannot depict living beings. So, but in Punjabi trucks, you will find these nice village scenes. So it varies depending from place to place. In South India, they are much less bothered about their interior. They have sort of a utilitarian attitude towards their trucks, not the kind of passion the North Indian drivers are like super parallel. So whereas the South Indian ones they look at it more as a source of income.
Oh, functional, right? Yeah.
Yeah, very functional and don't display too much sentimentality, neither in their attitude towards the truck nor in the design. So it is very basic in mostly in South India.
Hey, don't call us boring.
Not at all. Just like attitudes towards the
Sure.
truck.
I mean, yeah, I think this is a very interesting thing to observe also, right? How it varies from region to region. And
Yeah.
I guess it's, as you said, it's tied a little bit to the region and a little bit to the religion as well, as you pointed out. So very interesting things, I think, a lot of things that we don't consider. But yeah, go on. Sorry to interject.
Yeah. So after that, in Sirhind, I stayed for a couple of days, observed this, and from there I moved on towards the north, towards Pathankot from Phagwada. So
Okay.
there also in the way I hitched with 2 or 3 truckers, like whoever I found. They were going short distances. He would drop me there, then I would
Okay.
find another. So I reached Pathankot, and from Pathankot to Jammu, and then Jammu, I thought, okay, now it is Srinagar. Through all this process, it
Right.
was in April, okay. So
Uh-huh.
the April, May. So the heat was insane in North
Sure.
India at that time. So all I wanted to do at that time was just somehow reach Srinagar just to escape the heat. Because being a month on the road and the heat was very grueling. I can't imagine how
Yeah.
truckers do it day in and day out. Like in the heat, in the cold, in the rain, everything is uncomfortable on the road.
Definitely. I mean, we guys are spoiled for choices by traveling with our ACs on and full blast and everything. But these guys, first of all, they don't get to drive at very high speeds. And over that, the heat, as you said, it's literally sweltering heat during those months, right? And especially in North India. So it's not easy. It's not easy. But yeah, go on, Dad. So that pretty much Srinagar was like the destination for your first leg, right?
That was the destination in my mind. I have to reach Srinagar because I was also exhausted, and I thought I have to reach there just to escape this heat. I will like stay there for some days just to recuperate and then come back south to the plains again. So from Jammu to Srinagar, that was actually a very interesting leg of the journey because in Kashmir there is a train system. Like I mean, it is necessary, but these trucks move in convoys. Okay,
right?
Because the Jammu, Srinagar, Kashmir is basically connected to India only one road. If that one road is gone, Kashmir Valley is cut off from the rest of it.
Right.
And that road, you won't believe it, is like single lane. So if a single truck breaks down somewhere, there will be a jam for the next 3-4 kilometers. Because you cannot even do anything. On the other side, there's like this whole ravine, like whole cliff. If you fall, then there's nothing you can't even move the truck anywhere.
Sure.
So this road is, because of the condition of the road, these trucks move in convoys. Like one day they will go from Jammu to Srinagar, on the other day they will come back from Srinagar to Jammu, like that. When I went, they said, okay, like we are not allowed to go. Our trucks will be going at midnight, okay, from Udhampur, which is like around 80-90 kilometers from Jammu.
Okay.
Then I hung around at the Transport Nagar, and then finally one guy said, okay, come, let's go. I gratefully climbed into his truck, and then while we are going to Srinagar, I start seeing these people by the side of the road, like everywhere. They're everywhere looking for rides. And I was wondering, like, is this like sort of a thing in Kashmir, like where you hitch rides with trucks? Because elsewhere I had not seen it. It was not all there. So here, but everybody was eagerly, saying, okay, can you please take me in? Then finally, I came to realize that most of them are Gujjars and Bakkarwals. So they are nomadic communities who still practice this thing called transhumance. Okay, so this is basically the movement of entire flocks and families from the plains to the highlands in summer to escape the summer, and then when it's winter in the highlands, they come down back to the plains. So when I was going, which was summer, this was their time of move. So earlier they used to move on horseback, like all their goods would be transported on horseback. Now because they have trucks, they have started hitching rides on trucks. So eventually the truckers with me, they were like a retinue of 4 or 5,
Okay.
and they soon took one party of Gujars in. So there was like one couple, the guy's cousin, one grandma, and like they had a goat with them. The goat also had a small kid, like its kid. So these goats, they take one goat with them so that they can get all the dairy needs, because since they are primarily pastoralists who
Right.
graze sheep and goats, dairy is like an integral part of their diet. Without that, they cannot do. So while migrating, they also take one sheep goat with them. It extract its milk during the journey.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting experience, right? To actually get a peek into the lives or the lifestyle of people who live along this route too. And it's also, I think, very interesting to see that some of these, I think how these practices or the whole migration in a way, right?
Yeah.
The transhumance that you said, how that has also kind of adapted to modern times,
Yeah.
how they moved away from, say, horsebacks to now hitching rides or rides with trucks, etc. So I think very interesting.
Yeah.
That must have been also a very interesting learning from the journey.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, one thing you realize when you encounter such things is that sitting in a metro city, like staring at my
Yeah.
computer screen right now, we just cannot imagine that there are people who are leading lifestyles. We cannot even begin to
Yeah.
imagine like they're leading lifestyles which are like centuries old. I mean,
Right.
literally nothing has changed for them. Like the modernity, this computer, smartphone, like it's as if it has not arrived
Absolutely.
for them in a way.
Yeah.
And they are still so rooted in their traditional ways. The government is struggling to make them settle down. Okay. Because the government's job is that to make people settle down. It's there, and that is what they want, right? So that they have an address, they can access government schemes. But the extraordinary resistance which is shown by
Yeah.
nomadic people who continue to practice this very arduous lifestyle, if you come to think of it. Because grazing a flock on the highways is like grazing flocks itself is not a joke. I mean,
Yeah.
it is.
And it's not 5 or 10, right? They go by the hundreds, I think, in
200,
a lot of cases.
200 will be
Yeah.
there. Like in my journey also, you will see everywhere, you will see like 2 or 3 small boys with like lathis in their hands. They will be taking along the flocks of sheep, huge flocks. And I wonder how they do it, because there are like trucks going around right by you. You have to imagine controlling like 200, 300 creatures by yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, it's like a eye opener that you realize that multiple centuries continue to coexist in India.
Yeah.
While some parts of India are like islands of modernity, like it's like in a sea of tradition in a way. And throughout this journey, that's what I realized, that you move slightly, like you move 200 places, the place changes, the people change, the food changes, and what we call India is, it is just that, a name actually. People are leading wildly different lifestyles in different parts of the country.
That way, our view of the world is, or our view of India for that matter, is very, very limited. And I'm glad you got these opportunities. Where was your next leg?
So next leg, I was in northeast, Dimapur. So Dimapur is a extremely rundown place. Like when I went there, I was shocked by the total lack of civic apathy, like huge civic apathy. And because the roads are gone, I mean, it's very bad actually. I've been across India, but like that was especially bad, I remember. So from there on.
But this is supposed to be like the commercial hub for the Northeast,
really,
right?
Yeah, I know. I mean, it is like the point. So the thing, how the Northeast works as far as transport is concerned, is that Dimapur is like the railhead. Okay, it's the terminal. Right. So from various parts of the country, you will get food, rice, potatoes, all that via train. And then from the train, they will be loaded en masse into these trucks, and then the truck will go on to Manipur and Nagaland. So that is how it works. But the main problem is the highway, which leads from Dimapur to Imphal and onwards to Myanmar, near the border with Moreh. So this highway is called NS39. It's a unique highway in a way in India, because most of it is controlled by insurgents essentially. So the political economy of, say, Nagaland and Manipur is very strange, and you won't believe it, but it's like the insurgents it's like a known presence. Everyone knows they are there. even the government servants pay a part of their salary to the insurgents, as you know, this informal system of taxation. Every business pays some money off to them. I mean, you cannot operate, you cannot do your thing without their permission in a way. So the truck drivers, of course, are also submit to it. So this entire highway, you will have random insurgent groups. You won't even know who they are because there are so many of them, like 30, 40 insurgent groups with like various affiliations, various motives. They have carved up this territory, the Naga Hills and the Manipur Hills. And so there will be one Naga area, there will be one Kuki area. So that is how this whole thing works. So when I was setting out on this highway, I was extremely apprehensive. But yeah, I thought I had to do this now that I am here. So when I went from Dimapur to Kohima, that was very interesting because there were 3 truckers, okay, in the truck with me. They traveled as a crew of 3.
Okay.
One of them was Rahul Boro, like a Boro from Assam, a Hindu Boro. Okay.
Right.
One of them was Muhammad, who is a Bengali from Assam, and the third one was Michael. So it was like the walking embodiments of secularism in India.
Sure, Amar Akbar Anthony.
Yeah. So that was very interesting. At the same time, their backgrounds were so different. One of them, the Christian, Michael, he was originally a tribal from Jharkhand, whose ancestors had been brought to the Assam tea gardens as laborers. He had grown up here, so that was his case. And between them, they spoke like 11 languages.
Oh, wow.
So that was mind blowing. Like the Rahul Boro, he had trained under a Sikh, so he even spoke Punjabi. So I was mind boggled. So he says, we have to know all these languages, otherwise we'll get slapped everywhere. So
yeah, I think that's a harsh reality also, right? In one way.
Yeah, that certainly is, because they are very vulnerable to all kinds of extortion, right? Because they carry cash with them also.
Right.
So yeah, this journey was interesting. We saw, thing is like it is such a confused scenario. You don't know who you're dealing with. Like we were stopped in between at checkpoint and stuff. They extracted some money, but even the drivers did not exactly know who they were. And finally, we reached Kohima. From Kohima to Imphal was also interesting because there we met one drunk policeman and he was insisting you come to our homes. And the policemen were very helpful actually in this whole effort, because we used to wait at checkpoints and stuff where we'll find some truck. The policemen would like go out of their way to stop some truck and then order them to take them in. While I told them you don't do that because then I don't want to start off on a note of like coercion.
Right.
I mean, he should do it of his own free will. But they were like often very over enthusiastic in like helping us get a truck.
And just to be clear, it's not specifically that drunk policeman you're talking about, right? Policemen in general, you're saying, went out of your way.
No, yeah, policemen in general. That drunk policeman was totally useless. Then, and this is, by the way, the fact when Nagaland is actually under prohibition. So even then you have a drunk policeman roaming around. So that is the kind of law and order situation also you're talking about. Yeah, from there I think we can move on to South India. That would be...
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this like also was a, I think, complete eye-opener in the sense that it's not just the vehicular risks or the dangers that these drivers are facing, right? It's so much more than that. Like, as you said, a lot of these insurgent groups, like the truckers have to deal with them on the way. So that's also a risk to life, right? A real risk to life, actually. It's not as simple as, say, dealing with a corrupt RTO official. It's completely different. You're literally risking your lives passing through this road. So a completely different chapter. I think in both a good way and a bad way. Like in one place you show about the symbol of secularism that it depicts, and also like in one way the beautiful places, right, in North India that are. So those are the good parts, and at the same time there's these real threats and dangers that they face in terms of insurgency or roads are really, they seem to be a small part of the problem at this time, right? Yeah, moving on from this leg to your South India leg, I'm hoping for a smoother journey, but tell us how it was.
Yeah, South India was a totally different experience from North India and Northeast. Because actually I went a couple of years after my North India trip. So by then some changes had happened in the economy also. Like GST had come in for one. So this completely changed the game for truck drivers. It was like they were the one who were impacted by it the most in many ways. So
in a good way or a bad way? I mean, theoretically speaking, all those long lines at the checkpost should have disappeared, right? Because of this move. Was that the case?
Yeah, I mean, it did help a lot, undoubtedly. Okay. Most of the drivers said their waiting times have come down drastically. So it was a very good move. Like earlier on borders, we would be stuck in like a long line. But when I went to South India after GST, it was like I couldn't see a single truck. Like we just waltzed into another state very smoothly. So the route was interesting. Like Andhra especially was an eye opener. I mean, I had not explored that state too much, but this time I explored the whole coast. I mean, you think of South India sometimes as this one homogeneous mass, no? But like every state is. I mean, that is unfortunately the perception.
Spoke like a true North Indian, or
no, I'm actually.
I'm just kidding. I'm
I'm a Konkani, so I am from Karnataka.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My native place is in Karnataka, by the way. So
I was just pulling your leg, but I mean, this is always made a little bit of a stereotype, also, right? That Madrasi, that's how a lot of South Indians are termed. But your observations, go on, please.
So in Andhra, the first thing was I really got a glimpse of the kind of systematic corruption that happens in this the transport industry. So Andhra is essentially connected to Bengal in many ways. Like most of the truckers go to Bengal and Assam.
Sure.
So Andhra is apparently India's largest fish producer, fish and prawns, all that.
Yep.
So from there you move. Most of these truckers carry this kacha mal, fish, eggs, all that, to Assam and Bengal. But the kind of systematic corruption that exists is that they have to pay. So there is an entire system of dalals which has come up. Okay. So these dalals will give you a phone number and you message your Gadi number before you are due to arrive, and then he will ensure that you are not bribed, you are not extorted from, like, the police or RTO officials. They do not extort money from you, and you have to only give 300 rupees, a fixed charge of 300 rupees per message. So that is how the system has come up, because the kind of money the police wala will charge is, you cannot predict it. You can charge 1,000 because you can trump up any charge, because the list of laws is so huge. You will find that he is in violation of some or the other law. So extorting money is like just a game of, which law you choose to charge him under. So to avoid all this uncertainty, this whole ecosystem of dalals has come up, especially in Bengal, which is a huge menace because they hate it. At every checkpoint, there will be one dalal whom they have to message. So this kind of thing was revealed to me in Vijayawada. Then coming down south, and another unique thing of Andhra, which I didn't know, was the huge Hanuman statues, which are everywhere.
Okay.
So anywhere you go, intermittently, like 1 kilometer you're done, you will find this gigantic Hanuman statue. It's like there's some sort of competition with the biggest Hanuman statue. And they are beautiful, massive, and everywhere. So I didn't know that Hanuman was revered to that extent in Andhra.
I think his origins, he's believed to have been born in Hampi, but that's in Karnataka. Yeah. Even I'm a little intrigued about the phenomena you found in Andhra.
That was very strange. And but while it produces the largest amount of fish, I couldn't find any fish. Like, it is not part of the cuisine. Like, there you will find these nice chicken biryanis, amazing chicken biryanis, like Andhra style. So on the highways, we used to mostly have that. I was on the lookout for fish everywhere, but no, I failed.
Very interesting. And your point about the tech-savvy dalals also, right? I mean, it also shows, like, as you move southward, I think the corruption, it persists, but it becomes a little more tech-savvy, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
You could say that. Because, by this time, when I went the first time, it was, at that time, hardly a single trucker had a smartphone, okay? But 2 years later, I could see the change. Literally every trucker has a smartphone. He's sending the photo of the mal on WhatsApp to his owner, and he is like chatting on Facebook. I have many Facebook friends who are truckers right now because they all added me. I also added them. So this whole social change also, you can see how the technology begins to intervene. Even among the lower classes, it's assumed huge proportions. And like I told you, the truckers are decently paid, like 15,000, 20,000. They can afford a smartphone, and it's so useful for them mainly.
Right, and thanks to Jio now, it's even more affordable, right?
So that phenomenon, where the trucker, like one guy is driving, other guy is like going through Facebook. So I thought, okay, like now I'm back among my own. Like someone is like scrolling through his smartphone. Last time I had gone, it was, like totally tech-free experience in many ways. More, but this time I felt that whole change.
Very interesting. And so where did your South India lead you to from here, from Andhra?
Yeah, so from Andhra, I went to Bangalore, then Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu was also a very interesting. Like Madurai, I went, Salem. All of these places are very interesting in a way. Like, for example, in Salem, I found out from the truck drivers that Salem is the largest producer of sabudana in India. So because all of the truck drivers I asked, okay, what are you transporting? He would say sabudana. I was like, okay, what is the deal here? So apparently some guy in the 1940s from Salem, during the World War II, he found that there was a shortage of this. It's basically tapioca gum, okay, which is extracted and made into sabudana. So some guy set up an industry, and now it's like the largest producer of sabudana in India, the one city. So in Tamil Nadu, through my interactions with truckers, I found of this curious phenomenon of these clusters. Okay, so one city will be known for, say, sabudana, which is Salem, and then you will have Sivakasi, where you will have matchsticks and fireworks.
Sure.
Then Tiruchendur, you will have truck bodies, not bodies just. They are called the trucks which bore holes into the machine, big bore wells.
Right.
Borewell rigs. That is, Tiruchendur is like the largest maker. So like there are these few places in Tamil Nadu and across Tamil Nadu which specialize in this one big interesting manufacturing item and dominate it across the country. So at that point I thought that this is a very useful model which could be applied to the rest of India also, where you build these clusters, and because industrial development happens that way, where you have economies of scale. It is difficult to replicate, certainly, but like this kind of effort is made because like so many people across India have skills. Okay, like we call them unskilled. Like that is one term I have come to detest. Like anybody who's not working in an office sitting on his computer is unskilled. So that whole characterization itself is flawed because it ignores the many skills people have. I felt totally useless on my truck trips. Like I didn't know how to change a tire. I didn't know anything. I was like the useless.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of us city folks, for that matter, right? We lack a lot of these life skills because we've been come up in these little shells, right? Like we are so, protected most of our lives that we fail to pick up a lot of these life skills. We might be the ones who struggle most if we move out of that comfort zone. And it's ironic that we call them the unskilled or the informal sector, right? It's sad, actually.
It's very derogatory and uncalled for, actually. I mean, they should at least come up with a better name, I think.
Yeah.
So then finally I reached Kanyakumari after many trips in between with various interesting occurs, which I will write about in my book, like which I am actually. So
yeah, we will definitely touch upon that. This episode I think serves like a primer for what's coming up, and I would urge all of our listeners to definitely follow up, and we'll make sure to include all details, but we'll definitely touch upon that towards the end, Rajat.
So Kanyakumari I reached, and that was like a kind of very interesting moment in this entire trip. Like the place itself had a certain romance, right? Like the southernmost tip of India, especially when you traveled all this way, then you realize, okay, this is where it ends. And then the interesting bit is like when you stare out into the ocean from Kanyakumari, the next landmass you are going to encounter is Antarctica. So it's basically this one vast ocean you're looking at, and it itself evokes like various feelings in you. So, and it's gorgeous. The entire complex, the Tiruvalluvar statue, it's very gorgeous. From Tamil Nadu, from Kanyakumari, then I headed towards Kerala. Kerala was a totally different state in a way because it is ridiculously difficult to find a truck to hitch in Kerala. Okay. The problem is it is a very narrow state and a very densely populated one at that. So all the highways will be 2-lane. Okay, so basically single lane highways, like small. You won't even know it's a highway. So because of the land problem, land acquisition is so ridiculously difficult. No government will even dare to embark on a program of road expansion. So the roads are just as they are, like two-lane. And because of that, truck drivers don't stop. They won't stop because if they stop, then there's a traffic jam. So there's this, and plus you don't even see too many trucks actually. it's somehow like more of a hub and spoke model is followed. So because of that, the highway, it was very difficult to find a truck. I found barely some. So most of that I did by a bus or whatever. I mean, however, because it was, and plus the language was also some issue. I had a friend, but it was very difficult to find someone. So Kerala was largely uneventful in that sense, but eventful in many other ways because it's a gorgeous state. So all the toddy shops, I mean the local color, like every place has this local color. No, so in Kerala, the most interesting thing I found was that they call toddy shop just a shop. So if you say a shop, that means like it's the toddy shop. And all the alcohol shops there are called like beverage stores. Beverage. So that's how they like all these nuances which are typical to every state.
Hey, that's the most literate state of all.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, so that was pretty interesting. Kerala, and after that I went to Karnataka, my native place. I took a short break in.
Okay, high-fi, Karnataka.
Yeah. So my native village is in Uttar Kannada, which is near Goa. Okay. I stayed there for a couple of days, then hitched one ride from there to Goa, which was like some 100 kilometers. There also the policemen were eager to help me. Please, someone stopping random truckers, asking them. So yeah, finally reached Goa, and from Goa then on I came to Mumbai.
Oh my God, that's been like literally a roller coaster of a ride. And yeah, I think it's filled with various even emotions, right? For that matter, going through these different places. And I think that's in one way seeing the real India also, right? Because it's so different in different places, and especially going out with truckers, you literally get behind the scenes. Compared to, say, if you'd gone on a bike, you'd probably you'd see a lot of this, but again, you'd still be in your own shell in one way.
I mean, they are the original inhabitants of the road, right? We are all just passing through when we are on a road, whereas they are the ones who live there, who negotiate all the curveballs that it tends to throw at you. Highways are like, you will have some policeman waiting there, your truck will break down. How to negotiate all these things, where to sleep, how to look for safety where you sleep, how do you know whether a place is safe? All these tricks you learn. So it's like their domain.
Absolutely. As you said, if they're spending 8 months of the year on the road, I think it's not wrong to call it home. So you're right in that they are the real inhabitants of the road. And it was a wonderful experience just by listening to all of it. And I can only imagine the different emotions that you might have gone through, literally living this journey. But yeah, tell us a little bit more about your upcoming book and what you're planning to do with it, Rajat.
Yeah, so my book is coming out later this year, published by Simon & Schuster. And yeah, so in this book, I'll be covering mainly my experiences in more detail, and I'm exploring various aspects such as, sex on the highways, all these things which people usually don't know about, but which keeps happening. And overloading is another huge issue which I'm exploring, because overloading of trucks is like the biggest killer on Indian roads, and it is an unacknowledged one. I mean, so how to address this problem? What is the root of the problem? Through that, it's a travel log essentially, but I will be exploring these facets through my narrative. And apart from that, I'll be covering, say, the entire geography, whatever I have traveled, my experiences in Kashmir, Northeast, South India. So yeah, it's overall, I'm intending it to be a breezy read, which is at the same time informative about the history as well as the economy and culture.
I think that's a brilliant initiative, Rajat, and we eagerly look forward to this book of yours. And I can safely say at this point that we will get our hands on the book as soon as it's out. And for our listeners, we'll also give away a copy of the book as soon as it's out. So we'll keep you posted, listeners, and Rajat too, as to when this happens. And on that note, I would like to thank you very much and close this interview, but we eagerly wait your book so that we can get a better view, a more detailed view about the lives of these truckers who are the lifeline of India in one way. Thank you so much, Rajat.
Thank you so much, sir.
That was yet another great episode of the Musafir Stories. If you guys like the show, please subscribe to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Audioboom, Savan, Pocket Casts, Castbox, Stitcher, or any other podcasting app available on iOS or Android. Please do leave us a review on iTunes. It goes a long way in the show's discoverability. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We go by the handle The Musafir Stories. Or, if it suits you, you could email us at themusafirstories@gmail.com or visit our website at www.themusafirstories.com for more information. All of these links will be made available in the show notes section of each episode. So here's to more traveling, sharing, and inspiring. Stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, happy travels and goodbye.